Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Monster Party.
Monster Party! Monster Party! Hey. Oh, my gosh.
Ah, crap. Okay. So,
Who are you?
I am Matt Weinhold,
And I am SHAWN SHERIDAN.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James GONIS.
and this is a very, very special edition, a very sexy edition of Monster Party,
Very
because
sexy.
this topic is Scream Queens.
Scream Queen!
We have some very special guests tonight. First, Scream Queen. Damn you, demon booze.
How many have you had?
I've had about
already?
19.
All right. Let's
Yeah,
get
we
to
started this way too late.
Yeah.
We have Scream Queen MAX WASA.
it. Yes!
All right.
Oh, we bow to you.
Thank
Bow
you
to
so much for making this scene.
We are so thrilled to have
Yes.
you. And you look amazing.
Hotness incarnate.
Thank you.
It is
Yes.
hot
You
in
guys,
here.
you're
She's
too
made-
sweet.
Wow.
This is a sweet table.
It
I'm
is.
happy to be in the party.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And this is only the beginning. It's going to get
all right.
wild.
All right.
No, that's a complete lie. Okay. And we also have a special guest. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, because you got to give us the full intro.
And that's when that demon booze come into play because you can't pronounce my name right.
Exactly. Nobody.
Precisely.
yeah, it's WAYZAY, Zom G they call me, your hip hop revenant actor / artist, here to help y'all with this Scream Queen thing.
Nice.
Nice.
I bring that sexiness to the revenant party in the male perspective.
He does. He does. There's no
And
need
you
for me
have,
here.
You
There's
have
no need.
brought it.
Oh man,
There is no way I would have
she's
remembered
so-
any of that.
She's so humble. She's so humble. She don't even. You hear what she just said? Come on, man,
Come on.
girl. You is.
No, you know,
She
you got
is
some
the.
sexy. This is a sexy table. I
Yes,
have to
this-
say.
yes.
Wow.
I'm-
A lot of eye
I
candy.
think
Yeah,
so.
a lot of eye
Thank you
candy.
very much. Yay! All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The booze needs a mic.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it does.
Sexy
Little
booze.
Clink, clink, clink.
But Scream Queens. Scream Queens.
So what is
Yeah, that's-
what is a scream
That's a good question.
queen?
How do we all define a screen queen?
Well,
Because I think it's up for interpretation, right?
I think so, because some people think Scream Queen basically means you got to be in a horror movie and you got to be doing a lot of screaming, okay? And you have to do it consistently in several films, okay? That's one interpretation.
But are you the victim or the heroine or both?
Both.
Okay.
You know, it depends on the film.
It does,
It
absolutely.
really, yeah, absolutely.
And I would say, see, when I was compiling my list, I came up with a Scream Queen. I wanted to kind of talk about some Scream Queens that I love and admire. And this first one, I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but I would say Fay Wray from King Kong.
yes.
Fay Wray.
And
One of the first.
See, the funny thing about her is, if you watch King Kong, she screams something like over 50 times.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there are some. Sean, back me up here.
I know, yeah, absolutely.
And she screams so many times. Some women in some horror movies later on, they may scream maybe 3 or 4 times, but she's screaming through the whole thing. So to me, she has to be up there as a scream
Sure,
queen.
Sometimes when I'm having one of my numerous anxiety attacks, what I'll do is I'll just play a loop of Fay Wray screaming. And it kind of brings me to a nice calm place.
Right.
Kind of like
Let
me ask you a
can do
question
that.
though. So
Fire,
if you're
shoot.
looking at it, if you're looking at Scream Queens to be defined by women doing a lot of screaming, what about the women? Because I interpret as a more modern, up to date guy
Right.
in the horror industry,
right.
As a scream,
See, it's hard. It's hard.
as a scream queen, as a woman who's well endowed in the industry. It's not necessarily
Well
about,
endowed in the industry. I like the little pause in between that. That was perfect.
Right, exactly.
Well endowed.
Thank
I don't
you.
know how many times I've called my
You know,
wife that.
Exactly. So
Do you mean like as far as like number of of films they've done, or because I was looking at that too. Like, Fay Wray may have been in King Kong, and she's known for King Kong, but
what
she
else
hasn't
has
done
she done?
Exactly.
That's
She's
why
done
I
a
was
few,
saying,
but
you
Was
know,
it Mystery in the Wax Museum?
Sure,
Yeah,
but I agree though. I mean, I know what you mean.
like,
Is it
for
quality or
instance-
quantity?
What entitles the title of Scream
I think
Queen?
it's all in interpretation. You know, if your fans really feel that you are the Scream Queen, you know, that you affected them, and they want to follow you from whatever genre of film that you're doing, because there's lots of different horror films out there, and you know, I didn't start, you know, as you know an actor thinking, well, I'm just I'm going to be a Scream Queen. I started. My actual first film was a horror film.
Actually, Max, can you tell us actually some of the titles?
Yeah, what was that movie?
Most kind of iconic Scream Queen roles, you would say.
Iconic. That's also up for interpretation.
Right.
You know, I started my very first film. I was 7 years old. Was The Ice Cream Man? Do you remember that?
With Clint Howard? No way! I love that movie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I die immediately. You know, it's terrible.
Oh my god! I am so turned on right now.
Okay, well, that's our show.
You're allowed
good night.
cops.
That was like countdown to creepy immediately.
Yeah,
That's
so
why
that
you're
was-
candy zombie.
It was a good time. And then, you know, from there, I didn't do horror for a long time. You know, I did 4 years on Miami Vice and
Wow.
you know, Dream On and Porky's and Spring Break, and you know, I did all of these
You did an Andy
other.
Sedaris film, right?
I did lots of Andy Sedaris.
We love
films.
Andy Sedaris.
Andy,
Yes.
God rest his soul. What a great man. Such a pleasure to work on, you know, Savage Beach and Return to and whatever.
Yeah, those are great.
Yeah,
Those are
those-
pure fun.
Absolutely.
They are definitely fun. A lot of action. I love doing action.
But let me ask you, like, have you always been? Because you seem like most of the people that you talk to who are Scream Queens tend to be giant fans of the genre. I guess you would have to be. And like, when did you get into horror?
What time is it? No. No, I've always been. I'm a sci-fi person.
Oh, cool.
myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, we do
sci-fi.
that
Gets
too.
better.
We do that too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a huge geek.
You,
Welcome.
I have three older
where were
brothers.
you when we were in high school?
I was at Comic-Con.
I scoured that place for you.
Hey, don't get me started about Comic Con. Don't get me started. It's all right.
It's a different show.
Right.
It's a different show.
Well, you have to
You have to be back for that
totally.
one too.
But please
Talk about
continue.
that
Yes.
Continue.
You know, I had three older brothers. They were all into sci-fi. The guy who lived across the street from me was the writer and director for The Devil's Triangle. Do you remember that? It was about the Bermuda
Yeah,
Triangle.
yeah.
So
Was it the TV movie?
Like
or-
the documentary?
No, it was
or?
no. It was a
was a
full length
movie,
film.
yeah.
There was a book.
Oh, okay.
And it was very controversial. So he was my next door neighbor. So everything in my neighborhood was about aliens,
Paranormal and-
paranormal.
Nice.
Yeah, it was, and being I grew up in Fort Lauderdale in Florida, a very small little neighborhood, and I was one of the only girls. So that was my world. Things had to bleed, and they had to fly.
Right.
There had to be phasers involved. And,
Wow,
it was a
cool.
good
You must have
Cool.
just had like an army of dorks just following you everywhere.
I hope I still do.
Well,
Totally.
you got 5 more now.
That's right. Yeah. Totally.
I'm a huge dork too. So
Good.
Cool.
Good.
I-
The best combination
Yes.
possible. really.
Please never leave here.
I'm moving in after seeing this house, and the studio is insane with toys.
Yeah, I have many
Cute
treasures
girls.
that my lovely wife puts up with and encourages me.
And
She's a
she's
And then says,
fantastic.
okay, please stop now.
She's fantastic and gorgeous. By the way.
She is. She is.
Here, here.
She is kind of my own Scream Queen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to
All
put her
them
on the.
toys,
I was
somebody
gonna
was threw
put her
your
on the-
ass out a long time ago.
Amen.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
You got
that,
like
that
a
took.
museum in this thing.
Yeah. That took some searching, believe me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how many times that didn't go well. When the woman walked in and went, yeah.
If you ever go
Bye-bye.
broke, you know you got $1 million in here.
Let's not talk
would
about
you
that
say?
on
And
the
I'm not,
air.
and I'm right, you know.
So
Let's
Max,
not alert the people.
so Max,
Right,
what would you say is like one of your favorite Scream Queens? Is there a Scream Queen?
See,
to make a rule. Everybody takes a drink when they mess that up. When they mess that up.
That's a great.
Say Scream Queen.
That's a great game.
Scream Queen. Is there one that you idolize? Is there
yes, there
one?
is.
Yes,
there
please
definitely is. Brink Stevens.
Oh, yes.
Sure, yeah.
I love her.
I
She's
just
awesome.
adore her so much. She's a good friend. I look up to her in every way, shape, and form.
Very approachable at conventions.
Oh, yes.
Really, yeah.
Lovely and like a genius too, right?
She's very, very smart. She's a writer as well and a producer, and just so lovely. And
Doesn't she have like a
supportive.
master's degree in like marine
I
biology
believe
or something?
She does, which is why we get along.
But she's also really into. She actually knows horror film and horror film history. I
Yes.
think pretty well too.
Yeah, and that's and that's why we get along so well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a film with her? Have you?
We have, and we were in this documentary about Scream Queens together, and
Which is called?
something else, The Greatest Women of Horror and Sci-Fi.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
let the plug-a-thon commence.
Yeah, totally.
number one.
Okay. So Brink Stevens.
So
okay.
Brink Stevens, yeah, she's fantastic. Jamie Lee Curtis, who crosses the markets, and
Right.
I try to do the same. So
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, Jamie Lee is kind of like almost like the
Iconic in a
yeah,
way.
the modern sort of first
Yeah.
lady of horror
Right.
For our generation.
well,
Yeah.
you would think that, but Fay Wray actually is.
Well,
Yeah.
In classic terms, to me,
Classic,
she definitely
yeah.
goes on a list. The funny thing is, for modern times, in a way, some people would say Jamie Lee Curtis. Other people might also say Janet Leigh from
Sure.
Psycho.
Right.
For that one movie, but I would. Yeah.
But it's true,
and then goes
Sean,
full circle.
And yes,
Right.
But I think for when we were growing up, when Halloween came out, and people forget, Halloween wasn't. It may be considered a slasher film, but it's not a huge slasher film.
No,
There's
no.
almost no blood in it whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, what a shame.
It's just a great horror film.
And
Period.
how perfect is it that Jamie Lee's Janet Lee's daughter?
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
So the fact that she gave birth to Jamie Lee Curtis kind of makes her then sort of literally the mother of Scream Queens.
Well, Jamie Lee would be the Scream princess.
Nah, you almost had to drink. It was so close. It was so close.
But
Give me time, it's early yet.
as far as like a number of films that like kind of put you in that category,
Yeah.
I mean, I go back to the classic Universal films, and to
Right.
me, one of the great scream queens of Universal films is Evelyn Ankers.
Evelyn
Evelyn
Ankers.
Ankers was
The Wolfman.
Well, she was basically she was in a film that was every kind of iconic Universal monster. She was in The Wolfman. She was in Ghost of Frankenstein, Son of Dracula,
Right.
one of the Invisible Man films. I mean, she's done almost every Universal monster, and she was lovely in all of them. She was actually a really good actress and really likable.
The funny thing is, she was a contract player, for
Right,
Universal,
right.
and so it's like based on the popularity. My understanding is of the Wolfman. It's like, oh we'll throw Evelyn in the Ghost of Frankenstein. Oh, we'll throw her in Son of Dracula. So
Right.
it was like a constant thing.
But she was such a familiar face in those films, and you kind of look forward to seeing her in those. She's really great.
Yeah, that was the beautiful thing about that time is you were on contract, and so
Right.
you were set to do all of these films. So it was a little bit easier than it is today, where it's seriously a blood match.
Right.
To
Go on.
Wait,
Well,
what do you mean?
Right.
You mean you actually
Very
have
competitive,
screen queens
arena.
like trying to stab each other, try to get a coveted role in a
Yeah,
new
that's
movie?
a very good question. Like, what is the sort of competition element when it comes to being a scream queen? And is there?
It's fierce.
it's brutal,
It
huh?
actually is
Yeah?
very, very fierce. It's a very small community.
Mm-hmm.
We all know each other.
Right.
Not all of us get along.
Oh.
And can I say something before you
Please.
finish, Max, for the record? And I've been
Okay.
waiting to hold this. And for everybody that's listening, like, they really need to stop that. I mean, because to be totally honest with you, every individual person has their own traits. And, like,
Sure.
I get so tired of women in the industry, the horror industry, hating on each other just because they're a success, or well, she don't do it like me, or she couldn't do it like I. Yo, listen, love each other, because that don't matter. At the end of the day, it's more films than you can shake a stick at. It's
Sure.
more roles
Sure.
than you can shake
Yeah.
a stick at, and they need people. So for you to sit here and mess up your sisterhood
Right.
over jealousy, it's evil.
It is.
So it's
It is.
evil. So,
Although
so
in
so-
theory, if
yeah.
there's one field where there would be naturally some backstabbing, it would be
Right.
The
Yeah,
whole- I
absolutely.
mean, well,
The other thing too.
True.
The other thing too is it's there are a lot of these films that come out that you could shake a stick at, but the coveted ones, the ones that are really
Right,
good. I
right.
mean, if there's a slasher
right,
film
you're right.
that Ridley Scott's doing, are you
Right.
kidding? These girls are going to go
Go
at each
crazy.
other with
Yeah, you're right.
know.
You're right. But
daggers.
Demon sticks.
But yeah, you're right. It's just so sad because I watch it all day because I know them all.
Yeah.
And I know them all too. So it's like I watch them and I talk to them. And then sometimes they don't even put me into what's going on. So I'll talk to Max about the stuff that I love Max about. You know what I mean? And I don't know what's going on with this person or this person or this person. But I'll hear somebody else tell me something to this and this or somebody else. And I'm like, yo, hold up. You know what I mean? These actresses and models, actors period, myself, we put a lot of time into this. You know, like
It's like your passion.
I don't even have a personal life. This is my personal life. You know, you catch what I'm saying? I gave
Yeah.
up a lot to do this. You know what I mean? A lot of time. So when I have to go up for a role against a brother or a sister or whoever, you know, I'm not trying to beef with you over a role because at the end of the day, if I love you and you love me and you get the role, you still my peoples. We achieving together. We achieving together. You catch
Totally.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing that I would think, like with
Right.
Scream Queens, that it would be that as fans, we love everybody. We
Right.
we want to see everybody, and that like. I learned from, my years of doing stand-up comedy and acting and stuff. You get to a place where if somebody else gets the role, that's just the luck of the draw.
Right.
It's funny though
That's
what he
very
says about the gals. Hey, can't we just all kind of get along? And I'm curious as to like back in the 50s when women were still under contract, where, like Barbara Rush and Julie Adams. Were these two girls like trying to duke it out? I mean, Julie Adams did
sure.
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah,
Barbara
yeah.
Rush came from outer space. 2 3D movies. And my understanding is Julie Adams.
makes you wonder.
Well, she had done a bunch of these regular films working her way up. And then when she was assigned The Creature, she goes, The Creature? She didn't want to do a film called The Creature from the Black Lagoon. The funny thing is, that's what she's remembered for. And actually, she looks very fondly at The Creature
Sure.
now.
Yeah.
But I wonder if those two were battling it out,
Well, there's a battle in every industry.
It is.
You
It
know?
is. It really is. It really is.
I'm also in the music industry, and it's like that as well. But the amazing thing about the Scream Queens, the newer girls, they're a little bit more testy, about the roles. The older girls, we've been doing this a long time, and we've come to know each other, and we have a fondness for each other, and we support each other, and have actually gone to a director or producer and said, hey, why don't you bring this girl in as well?
Right.
Because
Yeah,
that'll
right.
just
That's what I'm
enhance the
talking
film.
about.
That's the way it should be. I
That's the
mean,
way it should
right.
be.
most of the jobs that I've gotten in my life have come from my friends, have come from
Right.
people that
Stuff
I
that you
met.
enjoy and-
somebody,
right.
like even somebody that you meet like 2 years
Years
ago.
ago, right.
All of a
Right.
sudden, you
Right.
get a phone call, and then now you got a job.
Right.
And
Which,
why
like,
not do it that way?
I try to show
Exactly.
people in the industry, well, our fans, period, all our fans, that just because we do horror, we're not evil. We got
Well,
a lot
we're a
of
little
love.
evil.
Yeah, just a little bit, but I'm trying
In a fun way.
in a fun way, and
I bite.
and yeah, I bite too. But I try to give our people that, and when we go through things like that, and people see that. Sometimes controversy sells, fight sells. They see this. Fans see,
Right.
well, Max going up against the role against. Oh yeah, who's going to get it? They see this stuff. You catch what I'm saying? And honestly, it helps sometimes. But when you look at it in the inside, it really breaks down people's relationships.
Because it's like the project comes first, the love of the art,
Art,
and because
yeah,
we do it, cause
right.
we're all doing this, we're all together here because we like this stuff, right?
Yeah,
Right.
we were 4 guys who go to Comic-Con every year, and we would hang out in
We
our
do this
hotel
anyway.
room, and we would do this
Yeah.
anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And the idea of that, the idea that this, because granted, I know that show business is a very competitive industry. I get that, but I mean, I've found that I've gotten farther by making friendships with people
Right.
than with
Right.
stepping on someone and causing discord. I don't see how that ever helps.
That's true. But
Right.
there's even competition at Comic-Con even to when you're going to a panel.
For example,
There's stabbing somebody in the eye with a
name
pencil.
names.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
no.
and
Oh my God, that happened.
Hall,
Yes.
Hall
That
8.
happened.
That's
right?
ridiculous.
But that's a
Hall
fan.
8.
Yeah.
It was
that
a
was-
fan because someone
Yeah,
was
yeah.
cutting in line.
Yeah.
Which is a whole
Well,
nother
no, that's
Which
not what
I could.
happened.
No,
I
no,
was
no,
there.
no. Tell.
really? Oh, tell us,
That
tell
is
us.
not what happened.
Uh-oh.
So somebody had a seat and they saved it, and the other person took the seat, and then they came over and were not happy with that and took out a pencil and
Well, they
stabbed him in the eye.
What was the,
So it's
what was
completely
the panel for
justified.
again?
Right.
Oh, you know what? I don't even remember what it was for.
Yeah, it was like some TV show or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like-
I think it was MythBusters.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like really,
was,
really.
That's it.
Quincy now.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but yeah.
Yeah, I know
Okay,
it's so
so-
crazy.
It's a big
Well,
thing.
but Comic Con will drive you insane. Like there's a lot of moments where it's like, if I had a pencil.
That's why I wear spikes.
Right.
Have you seen my Comic Con outfit?
Did you bring it with you?
No.
Can we see it now?
No. Well, you'll have to go online and look
Okay,
at
but I'm
this.
sure.
Where would we go online?
Yes.
You can go anywhere and
I got
just put my
picture
name
with her
in.
and
It'll
those
come out.
spies.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right.
I got pictures with her and those spies.
Are you going this year, Max?
I was supposed to go, but here's the thing about Comic Con, and no disrespect,
No,
to
of
San
course not,
Diego
of
or
course.
the way that they handle things.
No.
I love you.
Yes. as we all do.
Now that's a professional right there.
Right.
But they put the celebrities upstairs in like this little corral.
Oh, I know it well.
And when we're up there, you're on a schedule, so you have like the first half of the day or the second half of the day, and depending on who is sitting next to you, it depends on how much money you're going to make.
Right.
And when they put me next to Twilight, I'm not happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I've got a line in front of my table that is for them.
Oh, right.
Right.
And that's, and I'm sitting here like, oh, come on. And, I would much rather be on the floor, on the main floor with the action, with, my fellow geeks and,
Well, now, because I know that some people will do signings where they'll do it on the main floor. They'll get a booth
Yeah.
and they'll do it that way. And I think you're right. I think that's the way to go because
Right.
that upstairs autograph area
Yeah.
is like a no man's land.
Yeah.
It's
It is
a bleak,
crazy.
barren, like almost feels like some sort of like cattle stall. It's
Right.
terrible.
Yeah.
But the problem with being on the main floor is last year I was at a booth and there were so many fans that I couldn't get to the other booth that I was supposed to sign at. I never got
Wow.
there.
Yeah.
Can I
And
ask you a
that was
question?
gonna mess up.
How is that doing that with other Scream Queens? Like when
Well, Comic Con has nothing to do with Screen Queens, honestly.
conventions period then.
Well, conventions
Chiller
is,
and
that's-
Monster
yeah,
Yeah, Fangoria.
Right.
That's
whatever.
a whole nother
Yeah,
story.
how you feel about that? I mean,
I
like-
love doing the conventions because I love being there for the fans. I love hanging out with my friends. The I also do stunts, so the other stunt players and
Cool.
those.
What films have you done stunts in?
I've done stunts in pretty much every one of my films.
Really?
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah.
Throw me a title.
I just did one that's coming out soon called House of Manson, where I play Rosemary LaBianca. I get stabbed 47 times. I do all my stunts in that. It's very, very brutal. I still have bruises all over me.
Wow.
I want to see that.
Cool.
Yes.
It's rough. Devaney Penn and Brandon Slade, awesome people that were behind this film. It's going to change the way that you look at the Manson family.
Wow. Cool.
Because I've been very fond of them for years. So to hear anything negative might kind of mess with me a little bit. Yeah.
No, it's
All the charity work?
It's definitely brutal. It's a very, very brutal film. This is definitely horror.
Right. Hardcore horror.
Yeah, it's hardcore horror.
So we've mentioned some Scream Queens,
Mm-hmm.
not to like jump the gun here, jump around, but we mentioned Fay Wray, Evelyn Ankers, Barbara Rush, Julia Adams. I mean, and how about a few others? Matt, is there someone that you would look at and say is an ultimate Scream Queen?
Well, it's funny, but like we tend to go back and there's the more modern day ones like Heather Langenkamp is great, and she was really only in kind of that.
That's
the
really
Freddy
just
movies,
a couple
just
of the Freddy
movies,
films, really, right?
But she's definitely made a mark,
Right.
and is very memorable,
Iconic.
Thank you very much. But if I wanted to go back, like when we were just talking about this subject before we started doing the taping. I was thinking of Ingrid Pitt
Oh, totally. From the Hammer films.
Hammer horror days.
The Hammer films, yeah.
Vampire lovers, you know?
Countess Dracula.
Countess Dracula.
Right.
Yeah. And she is so lovely and just so voluptuous and like, you know, as a teenage boy growing up, there's certain things that sort of awaken your manhood.
Right,
and
right.
Ingrid Pitt was one of them.
Right,
she was the evil vampire teacher that I wanted to seduce me.
And there were many Hammer starlets back then, but the fact that she stood out really tells you something because she did have something a little extra special.
Well,
there were a lot of like Veronica Carlson,
Sure,
another
yeah,
one,
right.
But there were a lot of them. But I think Ingrid Pitt is probably the one that everybody kind of remembers.
There's a nobility to her.
Yeah.
Right.
She always brought
hot nobility.
a hot, sexy grace that
Yeah.
appealed to young Matt Weinhold.
Totally.
Martina
Rose?
Beswick.
Martine
Martine
Beswick,
Beswick,
yeah.
yes,
Totally.
yeah, who is hot to this day.
Yeah, she is actually.
If she was 90. No matter how she looked, I think I'd go for it.
You'd say, let's do this.
Yeah, and I think my wife would go, yeah, that's your
Did
pass.
you ever
Go.
think that,
There
like,
you go.
you know, when you watch a horror film and you see a female like running and she got the blood all up. She got the blood.
Yeah.
Okay, now I hear you talk about all these females, right? All the scream queens in it, right? Now, which parts of these films did you find most intriguing? Is it the part when they're dying, or the part when they're just fixing their hair, getting dressed, looking in the mirror, don't even notice the killer?
You know what? That's actually a really good question
Right.
because people give a lot of flack to horror movies
Right.
because it's like, we want to see women dying. No, that's
Right.
the horror part.
Exactly.
That's the part that's scary.
Scary, right.
It's and if we go back to especially like your most of your iconic slasher movies, it's the woman that survives,
Right.
and that's the one we're rooting for. And like, yeah, do I like it when the victim before she gets killed takes off her top and takes off her clothes and then jumps in the lake in the middle of the night?
Right.
Sure, of course, yes. But I want her to live.
Right.
But
I want her to keep swimming.
It's the chase. It's the chase, and yes, it's the eye candy. I think Dario Argento once said that like he would always rather
love
film a
his
beautiful
films.
woman
Italian
being
horror's
stalked
the shit.
and murdered than a fat guy. You know what I mean? It's not about. It's just about.
Which fat guy?
But
Name your
what I mean,
fat
though?
guy.
It's like
Who are you
Yeah.
talking about?
It's not about the murder and the
Yeah.
chase. It's really just about putting somebody beautiful in the middle of all this danger.
because it's art in a way. If you look at it as a canvas and you're putting this beautiful
Yeah,
woman in a scene, you know, it's like
because you also have to make it pretty palatable and colorful and attractive.
right, absolutely.
It can't
Well-
just all be death and violence and gore.
Right. But as a man, when we see a woman in how can I say the suspense or fear and
Like
or,
in
or
peril.
danger, it wakens something up in us.
That's true.
Like
Sure.
we want to jump in there and rescue them.
Yeah.
Like it's like no, girl, you stupid. No, So it's how can I say this? Those are the parts that's most iconic for me because I get turned on by the simple fact that I wish I was there because I'll fuck Jason up.
right, totally.
Showing up. I'll be like, yo, nah.
Totally.
We want to be the hero.
We want to be the hero. It's like, we see her bleed and we see her bloody. No, baby, no, not the tits.
Yeah, right.
Not the tits, no.
Now, since you brought up tits, though, now let's say. No, I just want to say.
see where your
I
eyes
want to
just
clarify
went.
something.
I
No.
see where-
I just want to
The
clarify.
king of the segue.
I want to clarify something because you're bringing up women in peril,
Right.
But when you have a very sexy, voluptuous vampire, now
Oh yeah,
See,
Good
twins
point.
of evil.
There's no way that can go wrong. Yeah.
Right.
The Collinson twins.
Madeline
Totally.
and Mary Collinson.
Yeah.
Playboy Playmates.
Playboy
right,
Playmates.
Yeah, for
Let's hear it for
Playboy.
the Playboy Playmate.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But those two
The Doublemint twins of horror.
and it's like double your fun, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, Twins of Evil was
Have you seen that
really-
movie?
Yeah, that was
That's a great
really
movie.
alluring film for that reason. I mean, they were just so young and innocent, but then especially the one turns really bad.
Don't that
yeah,
just
it's
make
great.
you just want to be like, bite me? Like,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
How don't you think that was a formula in
Right.
Hammer films?
Oh,
There are
sure.
scenes in
Right.
when you see them walking
Like, yes,
towards you,
baby.
and I go, yes, I want you.
And
to
think
bite.
about back
Come
then
to me.
too.
But growing up
to me.
growing up when I was 13 years old or 14, it was like, don't bite me, just touch me, just talk to me for a second.
Anything.
So you don't like to get bit.
I was the
No,
total
no,
opposite. I was the total opposite.
That's like I hit the mother load, you know? Like I won the lottery.
You know, guys say that, but then in actuality, they really don't want to get bit.
No.
Well, where? If you bite me on my funny bone, no, that's not good.
I like that. You can bite my funny bone.
You know what?
Yo,
There's got to be a website, right?
No, show me. Especially when the blood rushing. When the blood rushing, you squeeze and
Lord.
bite my funny bone. But anyway,
this
off
is
of
a
the
different kind of party
Okay. Now we're switching.
Look.
We're gonna
There
switch.
were
Now it is a party.
There were these classic scream queens, from the 40s and the 50s, and then in those 60s when you got to those Hammer films,
Right.
They-
and think of the time, the 60s. I mean, those films today may seem a little tame, but back then, like Vampire Lovers and Twins of Evil, I mean,
Vampire Circus.
the sex
Holy
and
moly.
gore,
Yeah.
and it was just that was like a big deal back then.
And the weird thing about it is some of these films were actually shown on television and I guess maybe the censor didn't really think much of it, or they didn't, it's
Yeah.
a horror film, and they would
Right.
be shown late at
They
night
didn't
on.
show a lot
like,
for
They didn't think
sometimes.
anybody was watching.
And
Yeah,
as a
right.
kid, as a 14-year-old kid, and you're watching this, you're
it sticks
Right,
with you. It leaves a real.
Well, there was
mark.
late at
I
night.
think
Why
it
were
has
you
to
up?
do with a lot with science. I
Right.
think, the evolution of film, because back then, even with black and white film, or the specs that we had with cameras, you couldn't see and get so into detail. As soon as we started getting more knowledgeable with the things that we can do with film, they started putting regulations on us like a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's how, and it always happens like that. The more we get more educated in technology,
Sure.
the more a rule come. Oh, well, you learned this, but you can't do this now. Oh, but you
Well,
Right.
and there was also
Yes.
the code,
Yeah,
like
the code,
because
too.
because
Right.
when you go back in like the early, like what was the first
the
Tarzan movie?
Yeah.
Where
It's the 30s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Marino Sullivan was pretty much
Marino-
naked
yeah.
for the whole movie.
But
let's just think about that.
But
for
I
a
think,
second.
but what happened is as you started to get to the 60s, filmmakers started to push the envelope,
Right.
and they actually
Right.
didn't care.
Well, the Hammer films were the
They-
first
yeah.
franchise of horror films in color. I mean,
Yes.
that was they
Yes.
took all the classic monsters and added the splash of
And
color.
they were
Right,
outside
right.
the code.
Yeah, I mean, it was that's again back then. There was such a whole other new world opened for horror fans. I mean, it was like you were.
Did that scare you more when the color came in? When
It
you
excited
actually
me
saw
more. I
the-
think. I
saw
mean,
the
it was,
blood.
because I'm a fan of a lot of different genres and eras of film. But I love the old black and white Universal movies, but it's a different thing, but the Hammer films. There was a vitality to those films, and especially like when you first see Christopher Lee as Dracula in
Right.
Horror of Dracula. He is a feral, powerful animal in that film, not like the suave, which
Right.
which is fantastic in its own right, but. Christopher Lee was a revelation at the time when he playing that Dracula character. That was just a whole other way to portray that vampire.
Well, and then no, go ahead.
No, European mores in general were very different than the U.S. And a lot of the studio stuff you see, horror stuff from the U.S., it's really, really tame by comparison. Even non-horror stuff. There's a different look, a different feel.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's most about it's two different ways to see a film and how you view a actor or artist, and that's through the physical and through the spiritual demand. Like when I can see an actress or art, like how you just mentioned him, the things that he would do was like real control, and you can look at the film and you can just see the spiritual control.
He had a presence. He had a real presence. Yeah. Christopher Lee. Yeah.
It's easy to put some things in your mouth, some contacts in,
Sure.
or whatever. But to actually have control of somebody's spirit
Totally.
through the tube.
Right, right.
It's a different thing.
And you believe that he had control of the women. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's that power. It's that power over it, and that's what I look for.
Well, and talking about that movie too, and that from every level, when you had Dracula as being, he was animalistic, but at the same time he was noble, because in those early scenes you see him, whining and dining his guests.
Right.
And then when you get to his brides, now the brides, if you remember in the original Dracula, are kind of like waify,
You're
kind
talking
of
about Bela
So
Lugosi.
true.
Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're standing there.
They're just standing there.
More like ghosts so much.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's Sean.
And
Yes.
that's that spirit that I'm talking about. Like, you see that, like, not even with nothing being said,
Right.
it's acting through the spirit. You catch what I'm saying? It's like mental telepathy or something. Like, you know what I mean? It's like
Vampire telepathy.
You gotta know how to not only play on the mind, but play on the spirit too when you're doing these roles. And a lot of our scream queens, to this day, the modern day, because it's too many people trying to do it, don't got that right. But you have iconic ones. I know you get ready to say something, but such as Max, you catch what I'm saying, that really know how to sell.
To kind of own it.
Yeah, to own it.
Yeah.
Because I can watch films with her in
I
it.
pay him for that.
I would watch films with her in it.
I would too.
I would watch films with her in it because I'm an actor myself. I really look for mistakes because I'm trying to learn.
Right.
So I'm looking for, none. And I'm not trying to boost her because she's sitting next to me. I'm being real.
No, that's
We're
cool.
talking about screen queens here. And and in those situations, when I really look at it, it's like being able to sell a role or tell a story not only comes from knowing your part or knowing body gestures. It comes from the spirit, because when our fans are watching this, or the viewers, period, to either decide to be our fans, they got to know that you feel that. Like,
Right.
this is they gotta feel it with you. You know
Totally.
what I mean?
Well, for me, as an actor, when I switch over, when the moment that I come on set and I get into makeup, I'm done. There's no more Max.
Right.
I am that
The
character.
character.
I become that character, and I live it and I breathe it. So I'm feeling everything that that character would feel. And just recently with the House of Manson, I had a lot of my fans get very upset that I took this role. They felt that I had stepped into a place that was very dangerous, and they were upset for me. And
But for you, is it more like expanding and just like exploring that? Is it something you just wanted to do? Because
this character, because first off, it's an actual person,
Right.
Rosemary
Sure. Yeah.
LaBianca.
Yeah.
So I did all of my background work on that. I looked at every autopsy picture.
Wow.
I noticed, the way that her body would lay, how she would react. All the way back to when she was a teen. Every bit of information I could get to become her. And to actually tell this story. And as actors, as filmmakers, we want to tell a story. So a lot of actors fall short on that because they forget that you have to stop looking at that camera.
Well, I think it goes back again to the commitment of the art. Like it's
Exactly.
the project comes first. You're there for the greater good of making a great film or a TV show, whatever it is.
Well, and it's also interesting to me that you would have people that would kind of, feel bad or whatever about the fact that you took this role, where horror, by its nature, as a genre in film especially, is dangerous.
It is
and
dangerous.
is about crossing those lines
Sure.
and pushing you and
Making you kind of think about something.
Yeah,
that-
making you look into an dark area that you maybe don't want to look in.
Right.
But that's the sort of liberating part about it.
Right,
That's
right.
that's
you alive.
That's the cathartic element of watching a horror movie.
You've seen it destroy so many actors and actresses, but when you really look at it, the ones that survive long in it and continue to do it, you know why they do? Because they possess one key, and that's love. I'm trying to be all mushy. I know we all horror, but when you look at it, love is the most powerful magic in the world, and it's hard to put yourself in these roles every day, or whenever you're studying, whenever you're reading your scripts, whenever you're trying to learn something within this industry, to make your presence better. If you don't have that key to enter and come back out, you'll get stuck in those characters.
No, that's true.
If it's just
You'll
another
get
job
stuck
to you,
in those characters.
Now,
So you have to have that key to come in and out of that door.
Yeah, there's a lot of method actors that get lost in roles and never come back. They're just lunatics from that point on.
Right.
Now you're obviously very passionate about Max. I get that.
Oh,
but is there I want to find out, is there a scream queen that, other than Max, that you think is stellar? You think
That we haven't mentioned already?
That's right. It's tough, huh?
No, it's not tough.
Oh.
It's how can I say this? And I'm not saying this just because I'm doing a benefit show for her. But, Linnea Quigley.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, we love her. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so happy that you're
and
not.
her workout video.
Right.
I'm so happy.
So freaking hot.
In addition to
Oh
her
my
horror,
God.
her workout video.
We know. I think
Exactly.
with Linnea,
Back up.
Right.
Workout video.
What?
she did like a whole
I don't know this.
Horror
Linnea Quigley
workout.
workout.
You don't know about that?
Oh.
You didn't know about that?
Ladies.
What were you saying, Sean?
But like, I think for Linnea, even though she did a couple, she became. I think what cemented her as a scream queen really was.
Did he?
I did. What
It
cemented
took a while to get to Sean.
Right.
Right.
What cemented her in that title, I think, was Return of the Living Dead.
Yes.
Even though that wasn't the first one
But
she
that's
did.
not-
She
it's
did
not.
Graduation Day.
Yep.
She did a couple others. But I mean, let's face it, Return of the Living Dead, her dance on the tombstone was made one of the greatest moments in cinema history, I think.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I mean,
Let's take a
but
moment
it is-
to
yeah,
remember.
it is-
that.
she made
Let's
so
take
many-
a moment of silence for that.
Yeah. I mean, that.
Go ahead.
Okay.
First of all, Return of the Living Dead, like, at that point in the movie, I already loved this movie. It was already hilarious
So
and weird
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Right.
like,
Fantastic.
wow, this
It
is
was
way.
brilliant.
Look, when I first seen it, and the first thing that she said was when it was talking about how the fantasies about death, and she said, "I want to be eaten by a bunch of old men." Listen,
right.
watching it the very first time, you know what I was thinking? I want to see this. I know they're gonna do it. I know, dude. And I didn't think that I was the doubt, and I was like, they're not gonna do it. They're not.
Foreshadowing.
They did. She was dancing all naked. I was like, oh. I was like,
Yeah. There,
Podcast.
Matt, there's your show.
And there's your show.
Well, now that we're going down that road,
but that really
let me
catapulted
just say
her.
this. Let me just say this. Is
I don't think we have to go that
now
far.
that when she says that she wants to be eaten by a bunch of dirty old men, I hope that she remembers saying that when I'm 70, because I will be calling her.
Well,
Yes.
you should come to the benefit and
I'm like, look, can we make an appointment? Because I got a lot. I got some flesh.
And she really embraced that. She really embraced that role, right? I mean, she understood
of
from,
course.
especially from Return of the Living Dead on. She kind of like Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers
Right.
and
Right.
a lot of.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, she definitely of the modern day scream queens. She's definitely one of the most iconic, I think.
yeah, she is.
Yeah,
And she's
I'm
lovely, too.
so in love with her. She is just so great.
I'm proud of her. Then her love for that she had. See, and that's another thing would make me look at a scream queen. You just how they do. What is the models of the month or whatever? What's that stuff called? The runway models, and you be the model of Missouri. She's the model from Missouri. The model. What's that stuff called?
I mean, like pageants or something.
Pageants,
pageants.
whatever.
For
It's the
all, like-
same way when they get up and they talk about, I believe I love animals and I'm going to be
Oh,
a
yeah,
doctor.
yeah.
I really look at that stuff with our screen queens too, because you see so many of them that's just cuckoo or lost. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sure enough, like it eats at them, and you got so many others who's passionate about certain things that's very, I'm gonna give you a secret that I'm gonna share here. I don't. With me, I
can't wait.
I love animals and I don't kill bugs. I don't.
Hey,
I can see
I'm
an
all for that.
ant. I can see a fly. I would not kill a fly. I would get mad if somebody
He's
smash
a
a fly.
gentle zombie.
You catch what I'm saying? So I don't like that stuff. So when I see, I look at little people's aspects of their life and really dissect it to who they are, and she is one of those people that just got such a kind heart. Like, and it's just amazing how she can, after all these years, do all this horror and still have the type of heart that she has. That's my point.
That's cool.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? The same way with
Right.
you. You know what I mean? So it's like I really look at these things, and and then I met some, that's just totally evil. I mean,
Name names.
dude.
You don't have to name names.
I don't
Name
want
names.
you don't
I
have,
don't
you have
want
to.
to.
You don't-
Shut up. Name
No,
names.
you don't have to name names.
But isn't
They
it
know who
true
they
that
are.
after going to all these horror conventions,
They know who they are.
like horror fans, passionate horror fans, for the most part, not absolutely, but for the most part, are some of the nicest people you
Yeah.
can ever
There are creeps in every crowd. We all know that.
Yeah.
But-
Right.
Well, you know what? I've done a lot of different kinds of conventions. Because I cross genres. From comedy to horror. Comic Cons and glamour.
We're at all of
stuff.
them.
Which, by the way, I will be in August at GlamourCon.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right.
With a
Hey, and
brand new poster from John Hull.
Okay.
I have never done GlamourCon before, so this is a first. So for you Playboy fans, come out and say hi.
Cool.
For your horror
John
fans.
Hull, who, by the way, is an extremely gifted artist who actually put Max in touch with us to begin with, and just want to give a shout out. If you check him out on the internet, he's amazing. He's one of those artists that what he does with pencil makes it look like you're looking at an actual photo. He's that
Cool.
close to detail.
Great.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I want me some.
Yeah,
this
it's
has been
awesome.
very
Might have
interesting.
him for the
We've been-
album cover.
Yeah.
And now now you have to where were we going to see you? Like what?
Oh, well, I am in a couple upcoming films. One called The Border, Z-Con, another one that's a PG-13 horror film for kids. That is so awesome. The Border is about how can I say this without giving you guys too much? Body trafficking.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Borders that's
Yeah.
being filmed in Texas.
Uh-huh.
What else can I say?
Your music, your rap.
Yes, my
Yeah.
music. I do zombie, vampire, Revenant, and the whole undead music.
Zombie vampire.
Yeah,
What?
Cool.
yeah.
Explain that to me.
Well, I give you the music from the persona of the undead. So what you think the undead would talk about if they were hip-hop artists, that's what I talk about.
Nice.
So I don't talk about the regular things that you would hear from hip-hop artists. I talk about what an undead artist would talk about if he was an artist. So it landed me like one of the only artists on FairNet, 4 stars in over 24 magazines. I'm in about 6 pictures upcoming now, and I've just been growing like crazy, like wildfire. It's my time. So I just we got an epic music video called "Get Bit or Get Ate" from the new. It's the vampire zombie way of saying get down or lay down. Either you gonna get down with us or you gonna die. So
like
you
that.
get bit or you get ate. Starring Max. Eileen Dietz. From Exorcist.
great,
and
great
everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Starring also Steven Castellano from Star Wars or Star Trek. Was that Star Wars?
It was Star Wars.
Star Wars. And a couple others. Forgive me, guys. But yeah,
Was he the Gamorrean guard?
Yes,
He
he
was.
was.
Very good.
Very good.
Nice.
Very good.
Gamorrean?
Yes, he was.
Gamorrean.
Right. Yeah.
Really?
Something like
Yeah.
that.
It's Gamorrean.
Gamorrean?
It's
Gamorrean guard.
Gamorrean.
Gamorrean.
Gamorrean. guard.
See, look, she's a nerd.
Hey, James,
We
say Scream Queens.
right because
Scream Queens.
because my friend.
Great. You know
We've
what?
gone around the
Scream Queens.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, my friend, I want you to take a big sip, and I want to know, Scream Queen, who is one of your favorites?
Who are we asking? Oh, James.
We're talking to the mic,
looking
no.
Yeah, well, you're talking to God?
Right.
I gave this a lot of thought, and I thought, there's Scream Queens who have screamed often in many movies, but there's also been really famous single appearance screams, and I'm thinking like Mae Clark in the first Frankenstein when he walks into the boudoir.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that the woman who played Al Hedison's wife in The Fly, where you see her scream through like a million different eyes.
Right.
Oh yeah,
You know?
Well, here, does Elsa Lanchester count as the Bride of Frankenstein who screams that famous scream when she first sees Frankenstein?
Because she stops. She can't scream at first.
But then she finally does.
That is famous.
Yeah, that was a great scream.
Yeah,
that was.
I love the I love the silent moment.
Right.
The silent scream. Susan Backline in Jaws is the first victim, who is the most harrowing.
Oh yeah, right.
And also Nancy Allen in Blowout.
Oh, Nancy.
Because who also does a lot of hard
love her.
Dude, I got a
queen,
question. Do you guys got a scream queen's name who actually screamed and was iconic during death? Like, I mean, the gargling, the blood, the whole nine. Like, and it was so sick. And I got one on my head, and I don't remember her name.
You're talking about a movie, right?
Yes. Like a famous death scene.
I kind of have one. Well, I kind of have one, and it actually is actually television. And it's something happens to her. It's not something a dagger goes into her, but it's an evil spirit, and that would be Karen Black from Trilogy of Terror.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Nice
Amelia.
one.
Yeah.
That scream that she gives is blood. Actually, just talking about it just gives me goosebumps. Just talking about it.
That's good.
I can't even. I can't even do it. And it's like when you think she has destroyed this little evil doll thing, and she opens up, and it's like, right. Don't open it up. And out comes the spirit, and she's so it's not a dagger; it is a spirit, but it's haunting. And
I would say when Vera Miles sees Mrs. Bates for the first time, and she hits the lights. I mean, that's a great scream.
But she doesn't get killed, though.
No, that's true.
But if we're talking about just, I have to mention this person because of her screaming prowess.
Okay,
Marilyn Burns from the Texas Chainsaw.
I was thinking about that. Yeah. She goes through so much in that movie. You feel for her.
By the end of that movie, you're like, it's like you were with her.
Yeah.
Seeing all her friends die.
And when she's strapped to that chair during that crazy
her
dinner,
the food
and then you hear about like how they shot that whole scene, which it was like
it was like 100 degrees.
Yeah, 100 degrees, and they like had blacked out all the windows. I mean, her screaming is like, wow. Did they really do that to you? That convincing.
She didn't do a lot of stuff after that, did she?
She did a few, but not.
She did Eaten Alive, right?
Oh yeah, she was in that. Yeah,
but she didn't do
another Tobe Hooper movie.
Yeah. But no, you're right. That's an example though, where one iconic role can kind of make you a scream queen.
But see, what makes another factor that makes Scream Queen to me is the editing, because when you look at it. You have fear tactics and you have scare tactics in films, and if you don't time it right, I like screams that scare me, like shit, and that's what I like, and I just love it. So shout out to all those directors that know what the hell they're doing, editing to make our women horror.
But I have to tell you something about that. I recently did this film called No Strings 2 Playtime in Hell. And the entire time I'm just speaking to a camera. I don't play against anybody else in this film. It's all psychological. And it's about, a clown doll that comes to life.
I saw the trailer.
Oh, thank you very much. And in this, I'm acting against nothing. The director was actually in another state.
Wow.
So there was a cameraman, there was a camera, and there was me. And that's it. And going through the different emotional states, because it goes from me, I can't tell you the whole thing because I want you to see it. Sure. But, I go from one level to the next over a period of time. But for me, it all takes place in this 2 days that I got to film this. And it wrecked me, because you don't get to actually see me being killed. You just hear me. And, that terror was, so...
It's the unseen terror.
And
that sometimes can be more horrifying.
Exactly.
Because your mind got something to play with.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
With like House of Manson, you were actually watching me being, stabbed 47 times. So you feel my pain. You're watching the blood spurt from me. But this other film, you're just hearing it all in my voice.
Right.
As an actress, when you scream, is it cathartic?
One of my side jobs. I have many side jobs.
Scream coach.
I am I'm a holistic practitioner, and I actually do scream therapy.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I have an office in Beverly Hills for those of you who
I'll see you in 10 minutes.
But I do regressive therapy and Reiki and all of those kinds of therapies, and scream therapy is very, very cathartic. For sure.
Wow.
You should try it.
Even when you're maybe in character?
Well, for me, it's when I'm in character, I have a bigger problem with actually, letting go because I'm emotionally attached to that. So, afterward, then I'm like,
I wanted to comment on also on how there was that trend. I don't know exactly when it started, where the kind of, I don't know if it was always a scream queen that was in this kind of role, but do you remember how when Sigourney Weaver in Alien and even Jamie Lee Curtis in the first Halloween, how you had the powerful, it was still a female victim or a female being chased and stalked, but there was the fight back. There was wait a minute, they can handle themselves. It wasn't the shrinking victim.
Resolved.
Yeah, I mean, because let's face it, even as wonderful as Evelyn Ankers was in the Universals. But she was kind of mostly, in most cases, the passive victim who has to be rescued by the hero or whatever. But when you get to Alien or something, I mean, Ripley's kicking ass and she stands her own against this alien. That kind of trend started. I mean,
Well, and that's why you don't like this whole idea of that and granted, I'm sure there are some misogynist guys out there that get off on women being killed on film. But that's their fucking problem, right? I mean, I think most people root for the Sigourney Weaver. We want to see her
even the
triumph.
Right, the concept of the final girl that started in all the slasher films of the 80s. Even though, I mean, there's large body counts and you started knocking off all these people, but you had Adrian King in the first Friday the 13th, Amy Steele, who I love in Friday the 13th Part 2.
Sure.
They fought back, though. I mean, the final girl who usually survives it for whatever reason.
Now, what do we think of Danielle Harris?
I love Danielle Harris. Yay, Danielle Harris. Not only is she a scream queen, but she is a scream director, and she's fantastic. And I support her 100%.
She's great. I really love her.
Awesome.
I loved her when she was young. I love her now. I loved her in Hatchet 2.
Isn't she one of the few actresses to bridge between the old Halloween series and the new one?
Yes, she was in the. She was in, I think, both Rob Zombie Halloweens.
Right.
That's who you're talking about.
Yeah.
She's also from Queens, which makes her
now when you say
Scream Queen from Queens.
officially
She's from Queens.
Queen, right?
She's
Right,
queen.
right.
Nobody cares,
I've waited
James.
an hour to
Nobody
bust that
cares.
out, okay?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. Lovely. I wish her nothing but the best in her
Me too.
entire
Me
career.
too. And as a director.
Awesome.
This has been great, and I'm so happy you guys could make it. And I know that there are a lot of people that we didn't get to. There's so many scream queens.
Barbara Steele, Hazel Ford,
Yes.
Beverly Garland.
Mara Corday,
Yeah.
Playboy Playmate from
There's
1958.
Linda Blair.
I mean,
Hello.
See, and there's so many that we could do. We could do a whole other show.
And maybe we will.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank Max Wasa and WAYZA
Yes.
for being here. You guys were
Yes.
great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
so
you. A
much.
drink.
This is great. You guys were awesome.
This was a lovely time.
And Max, Max, you have a podcast. The
I do.
Tortoise and the Hare Experience.
It is the Tortoise and the Hare Experience.
Rock and roll?
On, it's www.entertheshell.com.
Enter the shell.
Yeah.
WAYZA, you got anything you want to throw out there?
Man, look, honestly, I just want to throw out that video that we get ready to shoot, Get Bitter, Get 8 for the new G-Virus album starring Max, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Beautiful.
Look,
All right.
Can Max do one thing for me? Can you scream for me?
Oh, I don't know if they're prepared for that.
Go.
You ready?
Go.
You ready? Really?
We are.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Oh my God, that was genius.
I don't want to use up all your time.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I think we should all scream at the very end.
you've been a lovely, lovely listening audience. And remember,
Yes. Keep America strong.
watch Scream Queen movies.
I need a drink.